Festival. That's where I saw your film. It's
Hmm.
absolutely amazing. So it's Infraction. It's won a ton of awards, including at the Westchester Film Festival. But when we were emailing, you told me that this whole journey really started with a film called The Conqueror. So can you tell
That's
me a
right.
little bit about that?
Yes, I directed a documentary short about Philadelphia native Jerome Conquest. And that movie is about him losing his best friend to street violence. His best friend is murdered. And rather than retaliating and killing the person that killed his best friend, he stops fighting in the streets and he gets in the boxing ring and he becomes a professional boxer and uses his platform as a boxer to uplift his community.
Yeah, so that
So,
came out in 2018, right?
mhm. Yeah, we
And you
toured with
won a
that in
slew
2018,
of
2019.
awards for it. I mean, 33
Mhm.
film festivals, a ton of awards. But can you walk me through? So, how did that story come to you? That man's name is Jerome Conquest, right?
That's correct, Jerome Conquest.
So,
He's
how did
in
that come to you?
that story. We, me, and the other producer, Brad Downs, we were looking for stories, underdogs across America, stories that you normally wouldn't see told. And we were really interested in shedding light on the journey towards pursuing a dream, regardless of whether the person becomes financially successful or super famous. We're really interested in the virtue that is necessary to go after your dream and to also help others and those around you. So we ended up in Philadelphia, and
We have a
we
lot of those stories in Philly.
yeah, it's a great place for those types of stories. It really is. There's a special, something deeply special about Philadelphia. And we went into Johan's gym, and the manager told us that we should meet Jerome.
Oh, wow.
And Jerome took us around his neighborhood, Strawberry Mansion. We first met him in the gym, and he said to me, "Oh, you want to follow me around?" He said, "I'm getting married on Saturday. Do you want to come to my wedding?"
Wow.
And next Friday is my next fight. And so as we followed Jerome throughout Strawberry Mansion and his work and his job and his training, we really just thought there's a powerful story here. And we
Wow.
interviewed a lot of people, really got to know him, really got to know his family, and we kept coming back to Philly. Even after being done the movie, we kept coming back, and we're really just so, it was just such an eye-opening experience and such
Well,
a
that's him in the film,
treasure.
right? He's playing himself, or that's him. That's not an actor, is it?
That's not an actor, that's him.
So,
Yeah.
had you done film before?
No, he hadn't. He's just an amazing individual to work with. Jerome's incredible. We did all, and he told me he didn't want to be directed. He didn't want to do anything on screen that he wouldn't do in real life. So we followed him around. We had him running a lot, and
Yeah,
we
so like
just,
the
yeah.
running and the work he does, the workouts that he does in the ring, were you having like Rocky vibes? I mean, that must have been in your mind somewhere.
We just really let him kind of set the pace for us. That was the thing, was just we wanted to be very accurate to Jerome and to his story and to who he is. And
Mhm.
so we didn't have a script when we went into it. There was really an intuition that there was something here that we needed to share with the world. People needed to know about Jerome because he really is a hero.
Yeah.
And we have those things in all of us. And so we filmed a lot, and then the story came together in the edit, and we were able to piece it together in that exciting motivational way that is just so true to his spirit.
Can you give me some of the behind the scenes of how you film? Because you're filming him running, you're filming him boxing. I mean, how many cameras did you have? Can you explain all that?
It was really run and gun, and as you likely know, Strawberry Mansion is it's not the safest neighborhood in
Yeah.
Philadelphia. There was the night that Jerome took us around Strawberry Mansion. About 15 minutes after we left, someone was shot and killed right where we were,
Wow.
you know? And there were three other homicides in different neighborhoods that night. And that was the night that we decided we have to tell this story. And so the logistics of the filming it was a very bare bones crew. We had Steven, our cinematographer, Isaac, he did sound, and Brad, our producer. And that was pretty much our crew. We had a local photographer, kind of jack of all trades, who helped us out. He was very interesting and helpful to us, and he lent us his minivan, and we shot out of that minivan a bunch of the running sequences. And we shot on a really low key camera. We shot on the subway. We shot in the tram. We just went for it.
Well,
And
it looks like a Hollywood production. I mean, it looks, I thought you were going to say you had a crew of like 20 people, but I mean, it looks really, really high end, and it's an action movie, I think. Like
yeah,
there's so
the
much
Conqueror,
happening.
there is. It's a film I'm really proud of, and I'm just still really excited about how it came together and the pacing and just being able to show that area of Philadelphia. There's something so
Yeah,
raw about it.
for sure.
It's he's in his element. He's in the place where he grew up, and we didn't stage, we didn't stage anything. We just really shot a lot, filmed a
Wow.
lot, and on this small little camera, which had really good low light capabilities, so we could shoot in low light scenarios.
Yeah, the
And
stuff that's like in the dark or in the twilight is so compelling.
yeah, no, just all natural light with that.
Now, when you took it around the world, really, to show, I mean, it
Yeah,
won, what did I say before? 33, I think, film
it got it. Yeah, it
festivals.
did 33 film festivals and it won 9 awards.
Yeah. So what do you think, or what did you hear were the things that people connected with about that film?
Well, certainly their main connection is to Jerome, the film's main character. He's such a inspiring, generous, and humble, soft-spoken individual. And at the same time, there's this intensity that is underlying the entire film. And so individuals will watch that and watch it all over, the globe as we tour with it. And they were just really taken by him as a person, him as a human being, and what he went through
Well,
and
I'm
overcame, as a result.
um I'm gonna put the credit back on you as well, because there are a lot of these stories. Then there are a lot of stories like Terrance Lewis's story. But the way that you are telling these stories is making people connect to them, because a lot of people
Mm,
don't care about people like Jerome Conquest or Terrance Lewis. And the fact that you are dedicating resources, a good chunk of your career, to bringing
mm,
these stories to light is how people are going to find these stories who wouldn't normally. So can you tell me a
mhm.
little about Terrance Lewis, how it all, because it's connected to Jerome, right? It was a
It
family member of
is.
his. Okay, so how did that
Yes.
all come out?
Terrance is Jerome's cousin. And Jerome got in touch with Terrance and somehow shared the trailer to the Conqueror with Terrance, and
Wow. So
had been
Terrance would have
keep.
been incarcerated at that point.
Yes, he was incarcerated.
Okay.
And in fact, I
And well,
remember.
so let's tell a little bit of the story so people know. So Terrance, so you tell it because it's your story, so or his story that you've been trusted with. Terrance was
Yeah,
in prison. Yeah.
he was in prison. In fact, while we were shooting The Conqueror, you may remember a couple shots in that film where there's pictures of family all over the wall
Yeah.
in Jerome's mom's house. Well, one of those pictures was actually Terrance in his prison uniform, and I wasn't familiar with who he was at the time of shooting. And it was really not until I got a call from prison, he reached out to me from prison and asked me to tell his story, because he had heard so much about the Conqueror. He knew about my relationship with Jerome. And so he asked me to tell a story. He just said, I'm here. been here for 21 years, over 21 years for murder. I did not commit the murder, and I
Mhm.
would like you to tell my story. You won't believe it. It's it's an incredible story. You got to do it. And
So
so
what are you thinking at that point? Because he's still in prison, so you can't
that's right.
film him, you know, like,
No, I can't. Yeah. And it was just my first introduction to him. And the first thing I told him was, hey, we're still wrapping up the Conqueror right now. It was 2019 when
oh
he
wow.
called me. I think it's 2019 when he called me. And I said, we're still wrapping the Conqueror up. We're on our last few months of the festival circuit. And I told Terrance, I said, I can't think of a greater honor than to tell your story, that you would entrust your story to me. But I want you to know these things, they take a long time normally.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to, I said, I've been working with your cousin for a number of years and it's going great, but it takes time. So you need to know that this isn't going to happen overnight. Well, he says, I'm very happy you told it to me straight. And then, 2 months after that, he had his final hearing and he was exonerated. And so we could then speak whenever he wanted. He wasn't mediated. That relationship of talking to me wasn't going to be mediated by the by the prison system, by the
Mhm.
state, which had mediated his whole life since they
Sure.
wrongfully locked him up. And so at that point, when he was free and we were talking, a lot of those conversations, we didn't know what exactly the story was going to be or where it was going to go, but we just were really getting to know each other. And I
So
was
when he
just,
originally
yeah.
contacted you, was his appeal and whatever must have been in progress, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was in progress.
So
It
did
was in
he
progress.
contact you and say, like, with the thought that your work, if you made a film, was going to help get him released? Or like, what do you think his motivation was?
Well, I think his motivation was, I think he always had hope that he was going to get
Hmm.
out, that he would be released. But I think his motivation was, he'd been locked up and had his life taken from him on the basis of a lie, on the basis of lies.
Hmm.
And I I think his motivation was he really wanted people to know the truth of the story and what he'd been through and what he'd overcome and who he was. And, like being able to set that record straight, even beyond the outcome of the exoneration, where people are learning about him and they're seeing who he is. I think that interested in him, and also to know that this happens to people because a lot of people aren't aware that there are wrongfully convicted people in prison, people that had nothing to do with the crime, and they've been in there. Some people live and die in prison for things that they had nothing to do with. Terrance, 21 years. Had he not been exonerated, he'd still be there right now.
Yeah. So he gets out. So you have these meetings with him. Did
Mm-hmm.
you come to Philadelphia to meet with him in person, or how did you do it?
I came about a year. We talked. I mean, we would have hour and hours of conversation. It was a real blessing to be able to talk through things with him. And in many ways, I had the opportunity to help him and be encouraging,
Yeah,
as he
because
was
when people
adjusting.
come home, they have
Yeah,
to be acclimated to society, and so much has changed in their family dynamic, but also just in the world since they went away. Like,
so
now
much.
all of these small things, like getting a cell phone, all of these things. So I do know that when people come home, they have to go through a process, not to mention the fact that whatever trauma they've suffered, which they may or may not want to talk about. Um, so you have all these conversations with him. And so then a year after that, you came to Philadelphia to meet him?
Yep. I started. So I was in Los Angeles at the time. We're talking regularly on the phone, and there was a kind of screenwriting competition, so to speak, through an organization called the Moving Picture Institute, and
Mm-hmm.
they focus on freedom-driven stories.
Mm.
And they had given us some support with the Conquerors and giving some support to apply to film festivals and tour with the film. And so they put out this call for they put out this call for script ideas, and if you based on a theme which was standing up for what you believe in even when it's unpopular.
Oh.
And so they said we're going to take like 12 different screenwriters, and if you get accepted through the various rounds and you get into a screenwriting lab, we'll workshop the lab with you. Excuse me, we'll workshop your script in the lab, and then we're going to pick like one or two scripts of the 12. We're going to produce them.
Oh, wow.
And I had just spent like 4 years on the Conqueror, and I knew I couldn't, me and a friend couldn't finance this project. I couldn't finance this project like we done on the last one. It was just going to be too big of a scale. It was going to, it was not practical. And so I saw this as like my shot, our shot to be able to get a slice of Terrance's life out to the world. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt a lot of responsibility because he hadn't yet, although he'd been exonerated and released, he hadn't got a settlement. So he was at the time
Oh.
working at a homeless shelter to make ends meet, at the same time working to start his foundation, the Liberation Foundation, to help free wrongfully convicted individuals. And so I felt this, massive responsibility that this film would give him some semblance of justice
Yeah.
and educate people with what happened to him. And I worked really hard and I got into the screenwriting lab. They accepted it. They accepted the outline, the pitch, and then the script was going to get workshopped with other filmmakers in the lab and a
Well,
couple
can I
other
ask you
industry
about the
professionals.
script for a second, though? Like,
Yeah,
how
of
did
course.
you decide? So he's got 21 years that he's in there.
Yes.
I'm curious about your creative decisions with the script, about where to start the story and
Yes.
what you showed and didn't show in that script. So when we meet him in prison, he's already pretty close to the age when he gets out, right? Like, you didn't show
That's
him
correct.
going into prison, getting booked and all of that. You didn't show that, like, so how did you decide where to start the story, where to introduce the audience to Terrance Lewis?
Well, through his years in prison, he gained the respect from officers and inmates alike. And he was the head block worker, which was a massive responsibility of running the block, hundreds of people. And he, in his position, looked out for people and helped people. And what we see in this movie is when he stands up for this other inmate who's going to get the infraction, and that infraction is going to lead to being in prison for 3 more years for something that was really like this totally minor thing. But you
Yeah.
can end up, staying in prison longer than what you were assigned if you get these infractions. And so we I wanted to really speak to the theme that the call for the screenwriting workshop had asked us to do. That was really important because they had asked us to really stick to that. And so I was searching within his story how we could focus on that element of what does it mean to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's unpopular, even when it's difficult. And that's
It's such an
also,
interesting choice to have him standing up for somebody else,
yes, that's
and
the kind of
when
guy
we
he
meet
is.
him, yeah, when we meet him, he's like the mayor of that block. Like, you show
Yes,
him being respected, as you said, by the inmates and by the guards. So right off the cuff, it's like, well, wait, who is this guy? You know, because
Hmm.
they're saying to the new guard, you need to work with this inmate. He's the one who is like, you know, has a lot of say around here in a positive way, not in a negative way.
Yes,
And that's
that's
all.
right.
Yeah, that may not be what an audience is used to seeing about prison, you know.
That's a really good point. I that dynamic emerged from conversations that I had with Terrence, and so I was aware that it was there, and also, you know, the guard that is in the movie, there was actually four guards, four or five that were subpoenaed to testify to Terrence's character and who he was at that final hearing.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted to also root it in that as well. And that was going to be a pivotal decision that this, what turns out to be one guard in the film, is going to have to take in order to speak truth to the truth of Terrence and who he is.
Yeah, and the actor Percy Daggs,
Yes.
who's playing Terrence, can you talk about casting him because he is so dignified and doing so much in that film very subtly. Like he's just not he's getting everything I thought getting everything across about Terrence's personality in small ways that make a
Mm.
huge impact. Like you get who this man is right away. Can you talk about casting him?
Well, I was very fortunate. We had a wonderful casting director, Kelly Knox, and Kelly knew Percy and was in touch with him. And it at first looked like he wasn't going to be able to do the role because there was a potential pilot that was going to be shooting. So at first we didn't think we were going to get him, and then that schedule got moved around, and he was able to do it. And at the kind of last minute, he said, I'm gonna be able to do it." And he really wanted to do the role, and it was something that was very close to his own heart because he has friends that have been incarcerated. He has friends that have, been at wrong place, wrong time. It's something that he really cares about. And so he
Mhm.
was very emotionally and psychologically connected to the story. And he really wanted to bring his all. And he did. He did an amazing job. He really embodies the spirit of Terrence. And in many cases, there's a lot of similarities between the two of them, I think, as men. They're both extremely caring, loving human beings. And I think Percy has also gone through his own trials and tribulations. He's never
Mhm.
been incarcerated, like for 21 years, but he he's a man that has a lot of inner strength. And I learned that getting to know Percy and also after the shoot. I thought
Mm.
I there were things we as we got to know each other more, I could see why he was able to dig so deep into bringing Terrence's character to the
He
screen
has
in such
such
an authentic way.
dignity about him. Like really, as I was watching it, I was like, just dignity is the word that kept coming,
Yeah.
and not sensationalism, you know. But let me also, so this now you're having an actor play Terrence, where with
Yes.
the first film, it was more documentary style. So did
That's
you
right.
ever consider having Terrence play himself?
He had so much going on
Hmm.
in terms of his own life, in terms of starting on the started being out in the world again and readjusting and starting his foundation, that just time wise that wasn't a realistic goal. That would have been just too much to ask of him, you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
and and
What
then
about the
also there
guard? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh and then also you do need people that have, in this particular case, because you're delivering lines of dialogue that's written, and action and things of that nature. You having a trained actor that can bring that realism to the screen is really really important. And that's what Percy was able to do. However, Terrence did come to set, and he came with Jerome, and he gave a lot of really good notes about how things would happen. I had him there for 2 full days. And so that was really important. You know, he'd approved every draft of every script. I mean, this was a project he was very involved in. This didn't just plop out of my head. He was very involved in the process of writing the script. He was involved in the casting. He approved the people to
Oh,
be cast
wow.
to be in the movie. So I was really fortunate that the Moving Picture Institute allowed and was encouraging and really supportive of his involvement in the project.
So I do want to ask about the where you shot this, because it doesn't look like a Hollywood prison, you know, Hollywood version of prison. Um, so it looks dirty and it looks
Yes.
like it smells bad and it's gritty. So where did you film this?
It is all those things because it was a actually was a jail, and we filmed it in New Mexico in Las Cruces. And I was looking for an authentic location that would speak to Terrance's experience. I didn't want to shoot on a set because I didn't want the sterile environment of something that looked fake. It was really important. And so the actors really felt that. It was really hot in there. The place hadn't been opened up, I think, in a couple of years until we got there. There'd been rain that came in through the roof. It was evaporating on the floor. And so we didn't have to do a whole lot to make it feel like an authentic place for the actors. And it helps the story so much because it's the
Totally agree
world
with you.
that they belong to. It's the world that they're participating in. And, you know, in the Conqueror, we had the palette of the backdrop of Philadelphia. It was very easy in a certain sense. In this way, we needed to be contained to a single environment that was going to be that model of what Terrance had lived through in the
But
best
I
way
can
that we
see
could.
parallels between the grittiness of the two movies. I mean, it looks
Mm-hmm.
um the the style of it is very similar, which is your style. You know, and your cinematographer. And they're very connected, it looks like, visually connected and all of these ways connected. I'm curious about shooting, since you're saying that was in a jail. I think one
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons that these Hollywood versions of prisons look the way they do is because they have to get multiple cameras in these spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
there's the sound guy, and that everybody has to like fit into these places. Um, but with Infraction, it looks small and those cells look small. So how did you navigate that part of it?
We just got in there. We just got in there. You know, we had to modify a few things to in the environment. We had to build some bars in a certain scene. We had to actually break into the jail cells because they were locked. The doors were like locked open. They wouldn't actually move. So we had to like cut in through the metal, weld in through the metal
Wow.
to unclick the thing. And AJ was like an MVP on the film crew because this guy did an amazing job in the production design. And I came in one day and suddenly we could move the jail doors, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is incredible! You really helped me here because you need the doors to be closed, right? And they were all open. And so he
Wow.
figured that out, and then the locations manager was amazing. He was so helpful. The people in Las Cruces were very helpful to us. We had a judge be extremely helpful with the courtroom scene. She's even in the film, and
Oh,
she met
wow.
Terrance, and they really hit it off. It was like a very beautiful thing to get to see that and to be able to collaborate with her and her team so that we could film in that courtroom. They were very generous with us, extremely, and they helped make that possible. So we
So,
were
and
really
we
helpful.
should
We were really
say, in
glad.
case, yeah, in case people haven't seen it, we're talking about this film, like it's 90 minutes or a full, you know, a 3-part thing or an 8-part thing on Netflix. It's a short film. What is the runtime
Yeah.
on Infraction?
It's 21 minutes. Yeah.
21 minutes. You get a lot done in 21 minutes. So, can you talk to me a little bit about why you did this as a short film and how you got involved with short film?
Well, Yeah, I just started making short films, short documentaries. It was a way to be able to grow as a storyteller and to tell stories about real people that I find inspiring. And I always wanted to move into narrative, and this was my opportunity to do so. And short films are a way to do that. It's a way to be able to grow in your experience and to be able to tell stories. Sometimes I'd say actually it's all the time. It's tricky because you don't have a lot of time to tell stories. You have to be really economical in the way that you do it in terms of your time and also your resources. So for me, it's just been a constant process of growing and learning and being able to connect with people that inspire me, people that are just so virtuous and kind and beautiful, and to get a chance to show that on the screen so that an audience can connect with them and also connect with those same things inside themselves, right? Because these types of eternal qualities are all there for the taking for us. We can all exercise that level of courage of Terrance, and and so I want people to be inspired to know that that's real, but it's also in them. It's
Mhm.
attainable. It's something you can exercise with virtue and with diligence and with love and with care.
Well, I think I'm sorry that I'm just really discovering and appreciating short films. And I'm probably not alone in that I haven't seen that many of them because you do have to go find them in some cases and seek them out.
Yes.
But when I was at the Westchester Film Festival, to see what all of these different filmmakers do with 15, 20 minutes is amazing. And I'm a writer, I'm a journalist. So I think about headlines and I think about what's the opening paragraph of a story. And we have a saying also, if you can write short, then you really know how to write.
Yes.
There's not a lot of filler, there's not a lot of
Yes.
fluff.
Yes.
So that's what I was thinking about when I was watching a lot of the films, including Infraction. Like, how do you get this story across, in a very concise way? Because that's your time limit.
Yeah, it's tricky. You like I always say to people, this is a slice of his life. This is not his whole life. And you have to pick those specific things that you want to focus on and try to do it well. And in a little amount of time as you can. And with the little amount of time that you have. And so that is I think the difference between shorts that are really good and some that are maybe not so good is, hey, how well were you with your time? How well did you do? Did you really respect the audience's time and attention span? Did you give them, the structure that was needed and the emotional arc that was needed? And there's nothing I do that's perfect, but this script in particular, I just rewrote like life depended on it, constantly. And even up until the moment of shooting, there was a part that we hadn't quite figured out in the script. And my DP and we went to see the courtroom, and then there was a mudslide on the way back. So we had to go all the way around through El Paso, and we had another hour and a half in the car. And it was in that hour and a half that we figured out that glitch in the script, you know?
Wow.
And even in the edit, there was another couple of things in the edit that I figured out, like at the last moment, how to unlock it and how to, just always trying to make it as tight as possible so that you don't have lost time, so that you're moving the story forward. You're not making it too slow, but you also don't want to make it too fast. I had a version that was a little too quick because the production company wanted me to cut it down. I was like, okay, I'll cut it down. And then things were getting missed. The audience was missing certain things, so I had to kind of make it a little longer. But yeah, that's just a great exercise. I think you have to be really, go over it, over and over and over and over again,
Yeah.
over and over and over again, constantly.
Yeah. Now, what is it in your background that is drawing you to these stories where, the lines between Jerome's story and Terrance's story, you seem to have a real social justice heart. What is it in your background? And you're Canadian also, right? Canadian
I
American?
am, yeah. Yes, yep, that's right. I The first 9 years of my life, I grew up on a small family farm, and my dad is a physician,
Hmm.
and he was the physician in this small little community, and he's still practicing now. And I've seen through his entire career the people that he takes care of, and with so much um, care and respect, and he's helped so many families in different ways beyond, kind of, it's a thing beyond medicine. It's almost like it's a spiritual endeavor. It's a spiritual vocation
Hmm.
that, you can tell someone they have cancer and be really brash about that, or you can call the whole family in and meet with them and talk to them and, talk through those types of things. And my dad dedicated his whole life to helping people
Hmm.
of all different types of walks of life, all different types of many, largely working class individuals. And my parents taught me to love. My parents taught me to love. They're the greatest gift in my life is my family. And I think in my work, I just want to give that back to people. I want to give that back. I want people to feel that sense of possibility in their life. And that when you see a character like Jerome and you see a character like Terrance, these real life people, you you see that sense of possibility because they are overcoming such radical difficulties that
But
make our problems seem like a very quite small, in comparison.
a lot of people don't see that. And
Yeah,
a lot of people just see a black man, or in Jerome's case,
yeah.
a young black man, and they think certain things and they judge and and that's not the way that um those people are going to expand their minds unless they see films like yours. So,
Exactly. It's like, everyone when they watch, the Conqueror after seeing it, the comment that they make is just how connected they are to Jerome.
when
They're
they
seeing
probably
him as
don't
a
have
human
much in
being.
common with him at all.
Exactly. There's all kinds of people of different, much different walks of life, and they see that and they're just like blown away by who he is as a
Yeah.
man,
And
and
also, I
how.
think that, like, for me, I grew up in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, and the way that you shot it is gorgeous. And you're not from here, and so, which you don't have to be, of course, to film here, but you really you told these two stories beautifully, and they're Philadelphia-based stories, and so you are around the world now with Infraction, and it's winning all kinds of awards. It won the big prize at the Westchester
Mhm.
Film Festival. What kind of reactions are you getting from people?
I'm getting great reactions. The audience is loving the story. They're connecting with it, and it's just very humbling to sit there in a room full of people watching it and to hear the silence, to hear their just clinging on to the dialogue or getting some of the small jokes we have for levity, and then just the fact that they're there beginning to end.
And
They're
Terrance was
they're
there
there
at
in it.
Westchester with you, right?
It
That was
was
the
a beautiful experience to have Terrance there.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Is it right that
beautiful.
that at Westchester Film Festival was the first time he saw
It
the whole
was.
film?
Yeah, because he wanted to see it on the big screen, like his cousin Jerome. Only
Yeah.
Jerome came to the first festival we were in. We all went to that festival, but he wanted to see it on the big screen, and so yeah, that was very emotional sitting next to him watching it. This was just a couple weeks ago. He's sitting there next to me, and it was wild because as every line of dialogue is coming up, I'm remembering the conversation I had with him about, hey, how would you say it like this, or what would you do in this situation? Like the hundreds of questions, probably thousands of questions I asked him connected to that line of dialogue, to those lines of dialogue. And it was like I was having all these memories of where I was when I was talking to him, and and that was really special. It was so special to just finally get to, for him to get to see it and to be there with him.
Yeah. So where can people see it? And is it screening and play? It's not online, is it?
It's not online. No, we're just wrapping up the film festival circuit. I'm going to screen it tomorrow here in London at the British Independent Film Festival in the British Museum. So I'm really looking forward to that. And
Wow,
then
that sounds amazing.
I'm really excited. And I have quite a few people coming, quite a few friends that will be attending. And we should be releasing it online, in, if not on one or more platforms, towards the end of the summer, if not sooner. People can keep in touch about the film at infractionfilm.com. That's the film's website. They can learn more about it there, or at my website, timothyblackwood.com. And I have the Conqueror is just on the site there. You can watch it, as
Yeah.
well as another little documentary I did called Big Red. You can also see on my website. I'm going to work with the production company to hopefully get Infraction embedded there too, so people can watch all these stories in one place. But yeah, that's, look out for it. I can't wait for more people to watch it and for it to come out online so it can, get it accessible to everybody.
And what's next for you? Is some big Hollywood studio offering you bazillions of dollars to do a Marvel film or something? Or what's next for you?
Not that I'm aware of, but if someone is, my phone's on. I'll answer the call day or night. I'm just developing a couple other projects at the moment, and hoping to get a long format project off the ground. So moving from these short films that have been very successful and really rewarding to work on, to making a longer format film that I can release in theaters and we can share around the globe.
Well, I hope when that happens, you'll come back and talk to me.
I plan on it. I plan on it. It's a real honor to speak with you and to have screened in Westchester. And thank you for being one of the sponsors of the festival and helping to make it possible for us to be there and to screen our films.
It's absolutely my honor to have Mainline Tonight support the film festival, and all of the creative people who were part of the film festival. It was a great weekend. I loved meeting everybody and seeing everybody's film, and I'm really glad that we talked. I can't wait for everybody who's part of Mainline Tonight to see our conversation. So they can go follow you. You're on Instagram, you're on all the things, or just keep going to your website because the film Infraction will be there very soon. So thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. It's really an honor.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, good luck with the British Film Festival, and we'll be watching.